Hey there guys, how's it going, and welcome to a video where we're going to be reviewing the 980 Ti graphics card from Nvidia. This was just released this week and it's very basically a 980 on steroids. If you don't know, the best Nvidia cards around at the moment before the release of this one was the 980, which is the top tier really, and then the Titan, which is kind of the overblown enthusiast graphics card. It really is a bit over the top with the amount of RAM in it and stuff like that, but still obviously the best spec card that Nvidia do make. So this thing is trying to give you that Titan-like performance at a much cheaper price. The Titan is a very expensive card, around $1,000, around £800, and this 980 Ti is going to cost you around $650 or around £550. Now that is a shame, because if you're from the UK, you are paying more money than an American would have to pay for this card. Don't know why it's more expensive in Europe, but it's the same with a lot of things like video games and whatever. They tend to be more expensive. So for me, this is a top tier graphics card that is within the grasp of a lot more people than the Titan. I don't know many people who could really push to £800 odd for a graphics card, but if we're talking £500–600, then it really does tempt you in. And so I'm going to take this video to see whether it's worth it, show you what kind of performance you'll get out of this graphics card if you want to get a Ti version of the 980, and just see whether the games that you want to run are going to run at what you would expect with this, and how much extra performance it is over what you actually have already. Now personally, I've been running a 780 Ti, which is this version, obviously this card, the last version, and it's nearly 2 years old. Yeah, I think it's like 18 months or something like that. So I'm expecting a boost out of this card compared to what I was currently running. So the games I'm going to be testing out are The Witcher 3, Project Cars, GTA 5, Arma 3, Dirty Bomb, Black Ops 2, Counter-Strike, and Battlefield Hardlines. We've got a nice mix of games there, different types of games, action, role-playing games, and also FPS games. Now, when it comes to the FPS games, I'm expecting this card to absolutely demolish it, because FPS games are always built for high frames per second, because you definitely need that, and there's not often too much going on in these games, apart from maybe Battlefield sometimes, but a game like Black Ops 2, Counter-Strike is going to crush with this graphics card. So we'll see what kind of frame rates we get out of those. Now when capturing this footage, I was always playing in 1080p with ultra settings on, apart from a few of them where I've taken off some of the ugly effects, because some of the ultra presets had some really strange effects that I don't really like motion blur and things like that. But for all intensive purposes, these are all being played on ultra, and the FPS count is going to be in the top left hand corner. Now that in mind, you might wonder why this video is being rendered at 720p. That's because I actually recorded the footage at 720p because I recorded to an external device, and doing that allowed me to record without my computer actually having to use up any GPU or CPU power with the recording. So you're getting a true representation of how these games plays regardless of me recording the footage. So everything's 1080p, ultra settings, the video is 720p, but that's what I had to do to get the most out of these games possible and show you how they truly and natively run on your computer. So let's take a look at the games and see how they performed. So the first game that I wanted to take a look at was The Witcher 3. This is one that my 780 Ti have been struggling with a little bit. When Nvidia said they were going to send me out one of these, the first thing I thought is, I wonder if The Witcher 3 is going to run really nicely for me. And as you can see here, we've got some very nice frame rates. It's generally running around 90 FPS. In some of the more open areas where there's not much going on, we get over 100, but generally between 80 and 100 FPS throughout most of the world. There's not really a section here where it drops under 80. So a very nice frame rate. Obviously The Witcher 3 is probably one of the most GPU heavy games out there at the moment. This is the first thing I thought of when I really wanted to test out how well this card could run games, and it's done very well as you would expect. Obviously it's a top tier graphics card, but I'm very pleased with the results of this one, and it's definitely going to make me play a bit more Witcher 3 because it looks absolutely beautiful running at this frame rate. Now if you can't get these kind of frames out of this game, you might want to drop a few of the settings. I always prefer frame rate over graphics, but if you're running on a 60Hz monitor, then anything over 60 frames is not really affecting how you're seeing the game anyway, so you might want to just tweak the settings to how you like it. But this is a really good response, very good looking game, and a good test to start us out. Next up, we have Project Cars, a very good looking racing game, probably the best looking racing game out there at the moment, and this is the one that surprised me the most. I was able to get 200 frames per second out of Project Cars on some of the tracks. Now, with some of the tracks where I had lots of other opponents on screen, it did lower the frame rate to more around 150 and maybe into the low hundreds, but playing on my own on the Nürburgring, which is my favorite thing to do, I was able to get over 200 frames per second. Definitely the most unexpected result out of all of these, but very basically, if you like Project Cars or if you like any driving game, you're going to be able to absolutely crush the frames with a 980 Ti. To be fair, the 780 Ti did an okay job with this game. I'd say it was probably running around 120 with my 780 Ti, but to see it boost this much higher just from a one generation card is pretty impressive. So this is the most surprising one. If you like racing games, this is good news for you, but Project Cars again did very well. Next up, what I think is probably one of the best looking games out there at the moment for PC, and definitely one of the most GPU intensive, is GTA 5. Now, the results for this one weren't too different from my 780 Ti. I tend to find with my 780 Ti, when I'm just driving around in more of the open areas, I can get between 90 and 100, maybe 110 frames, and it's very similar here with the 980 Ti. I did get up to around 130 frames at one point, but nothing too incredible, not like the kind of increase that we saw with Project Cars, but I think that's because GTA 5 is just a very well optimized card. Some of these game developers optimize very well for specific cards. I know a lot of them work closely with Nvidia, so this one ran very well on my 780 Ti, and it runs very well on the 980 Ti as well. So a little bit of an increase in performance. You can see some of these sections I'm getting around 130 frames. I never got that before with the 780 Ti, but this isn't a very drastic one. This is just a 10 to 20% boost, but again, performed well as you would expect. Next game is the latest Battlefield game. This is Battlefield Hardline, and very similar performance here to what we got on GTA 5. Battlefield Hardline is a game where I actually was playing on medium and high settings. I found them quite good, and ultra settings were giving me a few problems with the 780 Ti. Not normally when just playing, but sometimes when streaming. You've got to remember that I live stream as well, so a lot of my PC games, because I only stream on one PC, I have to turn down some of the settings to get really nice plus 60 FPS, but with this game, obviously I wasn't streaming at the time and I just got this new card, so I thought, why not just smash everything on ultra, every single effect we can get, just use the preset and see how it does. And as you can see, it's absolutely smashed it, as you would expect. 100 frames is probably the norm on this game, and I even got around 130, near 140 in some sections. There was a section where a car blew up actually right next to me, and I thought that would make the frame rate drop, but if anything, the frame rate increased for whatever reason, whether it's some technology to do with explosions, where it's well optimized or not, I don't know. But as you would expect, it did smash Battlefield Hardline. This one is actually quite a increase from my 780 Ti, so very pleased with this one. Performed as you would expect with an FPS game. It absolutely smashed it. Next up is the ultimate game that people try out when they want to benchmark a graphics card, the ultimate graphical test, Arma 3. Now this one is an interesting one. I put Arma 3 on ultra settings and I was getting around 60 FPS in general. I tried messing around with some of the post-processing and so on to get rid of some of the extra effects that weren't really needed, didn't really make the game look much better, and I couldn't get any extra frames no matter what I do. And I even put the game on low settings and I found that it hardly increased my FPS. And when I get that in a video game, it normally suggests that the game isn't getting extra FPS because your graphics card can't do it. It's because of the way the game's just made. You've got to remember, these are pieces of software that use hardware, and if they don't use the hardware in a certain way, then they're not going to get any extra performance. It doesn't matter how many gigabytes of extra RAM you throw at, how many more processes your graphics card can do. If the software isn't utilizing that, then you're just not going to get any extra frames. So it ran very well, ran at around 60 frames. Sometimes I was getting 80 or 90 if I played Wasteland. I was playing some Wasteland, got a few more frames there, but I played the single player game, got around 60 on ultra settings. And I think with this graphics card, the main difference between this and the earlier generations, that if you have one of those, is that all of these new technologies that Nvidia have got, like the hair works on Witcher 3 and all of the little things that you see, like they have specialist tessellation and so on that Nvidia develops, you're going to be able to whack those on, put those on ultra, and it's not going to affect the frame frame rate at all, whereas with some of the previous generations of graphics card, putting those kind of things on is going to be a bit of a problem. But with this graphics card, you can just whack everything on ultra and you know that it's not the graphics card that's struggling to get the frames. In general, it's that the game is not that well optimized for this graphics card, or it's just one of those kind of games that isn't meant to get extremely high frame rate like some of the first person shooters. So Arma 3 looks great, kind of similar performance to my previous graphics card, probably again around a 10% boost based on my previous graphics card, so not a huge improvement there, but again, Arma 3, it's very difficult to run on any GPU, but it looked great. So the final 3 games we're going to check out are FPS games. Now, most websites and articles won't actually test FPS games too much when they're talking about a new graphics card, because these are built to have a higher frame rate. It's very, very rare that you'll find an FPS game where it really struggles to get over 60 or 80 FPS, like a massive multiplayer game that has a big sandbox style map like GTA 5 or The Witcher 3 does. So I want to test these out because you guys play FPS a lot. It's my most popular genre that I play all of the time. So a lot of you guys are going to be interested in how this graphics card might handle them. Starting off here with CSGO, as you can see, it demolished it as you would expect. We've got 250 to 300 FPS, an absolutely ridiculous amount of FPS, total overkill. And I would say if you guys play just Counter-Strike or maybe just Call of Duty or even Battlefield, maybe a 980 Ti isn't something you're going to need to get. Obviously, it's nice to get something like this to have it a little bit more future-proof than something else, but some of the lower-end graphics card are definitely going to cater towards you, and you're going to be absolutely fine with them if this is your style of game that you want to play. But if you like those massive adventure style games, some of these high-end graphics cards are going to be good for you to play. Like if you like things like Arma 3 as well, obviously if you enjoy the Arma series, then you're going to want to try and look at these graphics cards. But Counter-Strike, as predicted, it was absolutely amazing. It ran at 280 FPS, and I can't see above 144 on my monitor anyway, so it was all good stuff. So I also decided to try out a game called Dirty Bomb. This one is coming out on PC very soon, and it's currently in closed beta, and it's a really fun, fast-paced FPS game. I think it's one quite a lot of you might be checking out, so I thought I'd give this one a whirl. As expected, the graphics card absolutely smashed this one. We got up to around 250 FPS at some points, normally sitting between around 130 to 200, which is an absolutely beautiful speed for a card to be running a game like this at. But I really feel that with most graphics card, this game is going to run very, very fast. But it was kind of cool to see 200 plus FPS in the top left hand corner. It just makes you think, damn, this graphics card's absolutely smashing it. So that's a fun game, and obviously it performed well as well. Finally, the last game I checked out was Black Ops 2, because I've been playing a bit of Black Ops 2 PC recently. It's really fun, and it's actually still a very, very good looking game. It feels absolutely beautiful to play. Higher FOV, extremely smooth, it handles really well, especially because I've been playing Counter-Strike, so my PC accuracy's got a lot better, so it's fun for me to jump onto the Call of Duties on there and actually have a kind of decent aim. That was one of the things that used to put me off playing Call of Duties on PC, is that my aim wasn't as good as it was with a controller, although that sounds kind of weird, but that was genuinely the case. I'm sure you guys who play controller a lot and not a lot of PC will be able to sympathize with. And this was another crazy one, as you can see in the top left hand corner, 250 to 300 frames per second. So there was absolutely nothing that I could throw at this graphics card when it came to FPSs they would even slightly begin to struggle with. The one that was most difficult was Arma 3. Again, quite a notorious game for chomping up this GPU and CPU usage. I honestly don't think that you could get over 80 frames per second in that game with any setup. I'd like to see some results with like triple Titan Zs or something on Arma 3, just to see how they do. I got like 80 playing Wasteland on an empty server, but playing the single player campaign, I couldn't get much. So overall, what do I think of this graphics card? Is it worth you getting? It is a very expensive graphics card, but if you consider it's around £550 roughly, that's the retail price for the UK. That's about the price of a PS4 or an Xbox with a few games, and once you bought your yearly online membership. So it's not really a ridiculous amount to spend on your gaming, especially when you're going to be at the top end. However, if you're going to play just FPS games, and I know a lot of you guys love FPS and been playing Counter-Strike, this definitely isn't the graphics card for you, especially if you're on a budget. I mean, if you've got the money, go ahead, go nuts. It is an absolutely beastly graphics card, and I think you'll find if you see a lot of the benchmarks that these websites have been doing, they've been getting very similar results as they do with the Titan X. So to manage to get a 980 and then pimp it out to be basically the same for most games as a Titan Titan X is very, very impressive, and it's a lot of fun to have. Obviously, I'm very fortunate that Nvidia sent me one of these, but if I'd have seen a review like this, I think I might have just had to get one, because the 780 series, like the 700 series, is okay, but if you really want to run everything on ultra, some of the newer games are going to struggle a little bit, and obviously being a YouTuber and streamer, I want to be able to do that. So let me know what you think about this graphics card. Is it completely out of your price range? I honestly think that there are some other options as well out there if you just want to run certain games, but things like The Witcher 3, GTA 5, you're going to want to try and get one of the top tier graphics cards if you can. Just save up a little bit. It's definitely worth it in my opinion, but I would say that obviously I absolutely love PC gaming. It just looks so smooth, it runs so well, and all that business. But there's still a place for console. A lot of you play console. I play Call of Duty still console, and a game like FIFA or something like that, I would still happily play that on a console. So if you're actually looking to get a PC as well, obviously, and you don't have the budget to get one of these 980 Ti's or whatever, maybe you're just checking out this video because you just wanted to check out the graphics card and see how well it'll perform, I've got some recommended builds over at PC Specialist from my low budget gaming PC, which is around £600, I think. That is going to be absolutely fine for playing games like Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, even Battlefield, all the way up to a 980 Ti build, which is basically the same as the PC that I have sitting under my desk right now, although obviously that one's much more expensive. But you can go on that site, you can also customize everything so that it can work into your budget. You can put a different hard drive in, you can put a different graphics card in, change the case and all that business, but either way I think you're all going to find something that you're going to find is going to be within your budget or something that you might want to get. Anyway, that's it for now guys. I'm waffling at the end of this video. I just love talking about graphics cards and all that stuff. Don't forget to smash the like button if you did enjoy this review and you'd like to see other similar videos in the future, and don't forget to subscribe as well if you're not subscribed already. I'm out for now. I'll see you guys soon.